Our next speaker is from we're switching gears, not kinesiology. We are from the Department of Public Health. Yay! Okay. We are happy to share Caroline Hebron, and I'm actually the chair of her thesis, so I won't introduce myself as the chair. And I'm proud to work with Caroline. I call her affectionately Sweet Caroline, and I do sing the Neil Diamond song with her. And someone's leaving because they can't handle me doing the Sweet Caroline. We like to say that, she's in disguise. She is Canadian, but she only shares that with certain people. Some people, they never know. They never know. She goes below the radar. All right, so Caroline is going to share with you knowledge and attitudes towards hereditary inclusion, body myopathy, and genetic carrier screening. Sweet Caroline, all right.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. Hi, guys. So let's imagine the following scenario. You're 25 years old and hopefully no longer living at home with your parents, unlike me. After a quarter of a century of living a seemingly healthy life, you learn that you have a muscular disease. You begin to trip over yourself because you can no longer hold your foot up, and you have difficulty running or even walking. After visiting multiple doctors, you finally learn that you have a progressively debilitating neuromuscular disease. There is no cure or approved treatment. Soon, your new best friend will be a cane, and you'll be confined to a wheelchair in the next 10 years. This is a snapshot of what life is like living with hereditary inclusion body myopathy, or HIBM. I put a face to this disease last November when I had the opportunity to hear of the daily struggles of a patient named Maya who lives with this heart-wrenching disease. She spoke of the progressively debilitating losses she has endured since her diagnosis 6 years ago, and how this disease is a one-way street where physical losses, can never be regained. She can no longer pick up her infant son. So why am I telling you all of this? Simple, because the research that I'm conducting is aimed at preventing this genetic disease from being passed on to future generations. And why is it so important to me? Because of my community. Growing up in the Iranian Jewish community has had its challenges. As a Pur-Jew, short for Persian Jewish, my path has been explicitly dictated to me since childhood. I will get married prior to the age of 30. I will become either a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, an orthodontist, a periodontist. Practically anything that has to do with shoving my hand into someone's mouth and having the doctor title to precede my name would suffice. Unfortunately for my mother, none of those things have panned out. Sorry, Mom, she's here. Interestingly, once I was accepted into my master's program here at CSUN, she shared her most empowering opinions with me. She said, Caroline, you're 27 years old. You're on the verge of reproductive expiration. When will you have time to get married and have children? You need to prioritize. Once again, I was reminded of my biological clock just ticking away. But what about, and also, I honestly, between you and I don't actually need another contributor to my overwhelming genetic predisposition to body hair. Thanks, though. So what about my genetics? What about my genes? Would it be ideal for me to marry another Iranian Jew? I had learned several years ago that genetic variation is actually key to healthy offspring, and thus began my research. What I uncovered was mind-blowing. Currently, there are 4 hereditary diseases which are prevalent in the Iranian Jewish community. Of these 4, HIBM in particular caught my attention due to its severity. It is a rare genetic disease which causes, it's a rare genetic disease which causes unforgiving debilitation. And It is most common among Iranian Jewish and Japanese communities. However, it also affects individuals of other ethnicities. Symptoms usually begin to occur in early adulthood between the late teens until the early 30s. And although it's not life-threatening, it can confine patients to a wheelchair within 10 to 20 years of diagnosis. On a cellular level, HIBM is linked with this annoying mutation in a single gene called GNE, which causes muscles to slowly waste away. The inheritance pattern is displayed above. As with many other rare genetic diseases, both parents must be carriers in order to pass the disease on to their kids. But remember, carriers do not display symptoms. And if both parents are carriers, they have a 25% chance with each pregnancy to conceive a child with HIBM. In the 1970s, Jews of European ancestry had a carrier rate of 1 in 27 in a disease called Tay-Sachs. Let's compare this to HIBM. It is estimated that 1 in 15 Iranian Jews is a carrier of HIBM. That's 1 in 15 compared to 1 in 27, almost double the rate. Today, Tay-Sachs prevalence has been reduced by 95%. Unfortunately, intervention efforts in the Iranian Jewish community have failed. So now that you know all of this, what questions or queries do you have? Mine were the focus of my research. Why, with such high carrier rates, was this population so reluctant to get screened? Did they even know about the debilitating characteristics of HIBM? So I tried to look to the scientific literature, and unfortunately, to no avail. And then I decided to put on my big kids research hat and create an online survey to fill in the gaps. My survey included some hard-hitting questions, such as questions related to HIBM knowledge, perceived susceptibility and severity, and perceived benefits and barriers to HIBM. And my outcome variable was simple. Do you intend to get screened, yes or no? Recruitment is actually ongoing and has been very challenging. Perhaps my community is reluctant to take ownership of HIBM. Disease stigma is highly present in this community because finding out that you're a carrier of this disease could hinder your chances of marriage. So of the data that I have collected, here's a word cloud of a question related to why or why not participants would intend to get screened. And finally, my hope is that this research will pave the way to intervention efforts in genetic disease in all communities. My hope is that one day we will eradicate HIBM. And my hope is that once I fulfill mommy's dream of having children, they will live without the burden of preventable genetic disease. Until then, please remember one thing. There are only two ways to know if you're a carrier of a genetic disease: to get screened or to give birth to a child affected with disease. Thank you.
I'm going to defer the questions to you if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your presentation. The one question I had, and you might have already mentioned, I just wanted to know a little bit more about, I know you said you were having difficulties with recruitment. I saw your survey. What methods did you mention is it on social media that you're putting out the survey? Is it on?
Right, so I have actually tried to collect data through organizations. So I've reached out to multiple organizations that interact with this community, especially the young adult population. I've reached out to synagogues, to young adult groups, to the Jewish Federation, multiple kind of community groups that interact. And it's been difficult because convincing an organization to post something up on their Facebook page or send it out on their email blast list it's a hard thing to do. So, and some organizations have bluntly told me that they're not interested, so.
So you've primarily dealt with reaching out to the leaders of the organization?
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Following up with that, with your research that you sent out, or the survey you sent out, how many did you get back? How many people actually
As
responded?
of now, I'm at 50, so 50. I was aiming for 200, which I think was quite a bit. I started recruiting in November, early November, and I'm trying to collect data in New York as well as LA. But I've noticed that having a face-to-face interaction with someone really helps, and I obviously can't do that unless I use Skype or something with someone in New York. Fortunately, one of my committee members is a geneticist in New York, so he's helped, but he can only do so much, so.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys.